How do you fix invasions in Elden Ring? Well, that's the neat thing. You don't. Invasions are objectively perfect, and you just need to deal with it and get good. Obvious sarcasm aside, it is painfully clear that a great number of people are not satisfied with Elden Ring's multiplayer functions, specifically the interaction between co-op and invasions. A brief overview of the systems reveals the somewhat self-evident problems that come up over and over again in the numerous complaints people have with the invasion system. For the sake of this topic, we'll ignore the notoriously terrible netcode lag issues and glitch exploiters for the sake of this discussion, and we will go forward assuming all things from a technical perspective actually work, which is a big ask in FromSoft games, especially ones which are online, but we'll go ahead with the ideal world assumption anyway. Multiplayer functions in Elden Ring, and by extension other FromSoft games, are somewhat unique. Technically, multiplayer functions are always there, assuming you're playing online. This is in the form of the oft overlooked in this discussion player messages, bloodstains, and white ghosts. The messages are obvious. These are messages left by players in their world with the hope that they will impart something of worth to people in worlds where their messages randomly spawn. Whether this is useful or not, or is simply humorous, will vary from person to person, with the slightly cryptic hints assembled out of the myriad pre-built phrases and words that FromSoft allows you to use. Bloodstains allow players to interact with a vision of the last moments of other players' lives, sometimes allowing you to identify traps or ambushes in rooms, either by witnessing the actions of the phantoms themselves, or by simply observing a large number of clustered bloodstains. White ghosts are a simple glimpse of someone currently playing their game as a ghostly outline. This may or may not impart any particular information to a player, as most of the time the ghost in question will simply be running around or swinging their weapons seemingly at random. I have yet to see anyone complain about any of these online multiplayer functions in any number or with any degree of earnest, more than likely because of their inobtrusive and non-invasive nature. The rub with Elden Ring's multiplayer system comes when you wish to directly connect your world with that of another, so that you may assist or be assisted by another player. The items used to initiate multiplayer in Elden Ring are the tarnished furled finger and small golden effigy. Both are used to send friendly invitations to other worlds. The finger will place one summon sign at a specific location, and the golden effigy will send multiple signs to effigy stakes in various places around the world. After this, there are the red equivalents of those items, the duelist's furled finger and small red effigy, which will do the same as their golden counterparts, but instead your sign will be used to summon you as a hostile force into someone's world. The use of the furl calling finger remedy will allow a player to witness golden help signs from other players in order to summon them into their world as a cooperator, to assist them through an area or with a particular boss fight. Upon completing the objective in question, the friendly phantom will return to their world. The furl calling finger remedy will also allow players to see hostile red fight me signs, which will summon an antagonistic player into their world for single combat. All of this works well enough. However, the main point of contention is that the use of the furl calling finger remedy and subsequent summoning of a friendly golden phantom will open your world to invasions. Invasions are when hostile red phantoms enter your world without invitation by their own use of the items Bloody Finger, Recusant Finger, or Festering Bloody Finger. This is the multiplayer mechanic that is most controversial in Elden Ring for numerous reasons. One of which is the tendency of red phantoms to play in a manner that could be politely described as conservative and careful, owing to their invasion nature as a 2v1 or 3v1 fight. This is numerically an inherent disadvantage, and is counteracted by NPCs of the world not being hostile towards the invader. This hypothetically allows the invader breathing room and a more balanced play experience, since they are, effectively, fulfilling the role of an additional, albeit more varied, NPC. However, this state of affairs leads to many invaders simply running away at any and all encounters to hide behind the biggest and scariest NPCs at bottleneck locations, effectively forcing the host and their allies to combat them in the most disadvantageous position possible. This is, after all, only common sense. If you are playing at a numerical disadvantage, why would you not attempt to stack the deck in your favour by using the environment and NPCs that might as well be a constant source of backup for you? However, in an open world game, this becomes more of an issue than in the dungeon crawler, more linear levels of past Souls games. Invaders can now run for hundreds of meters across entire continents specifically to avoid combat, dragging the host and their allies through potentially hundreds of other enemies before even attempting to engage them. Fans of invasions will say, working as intended. I actually agree with this sentiment, despite how frustrating it is to follow an invader through an entire level, only being attacked by them a handful of times at range and only when other NPCs are there. It is something the game allows, why would you not do this? However, I do have choice words to FromSoft regarding the ability to be invaded during a field boss fight. Boss fights placed behind fog doors in Elden Ring, when activated, will automatically return an invader home, since the host is now beyond their reach, and the boss is the battle that is balanced around the host and their phantom allies. This same system should absolutely be used for field bosses as well. If a field boss is activated, it should send invaders home, because of the nature of this encounter being a balanced boss fight. Problems such as these could be ameliorated by the use of time limits for invasions. However, this would more than likely be unsatisfactory. Since Elden Ring's levels are so large, a good chunk of any invasion time could be wasted by simply trying to find the host or invader, and would also cut short legitimate and fun invasions that simply happen to be long, rather than the boring, long, drawn-out one of invaders simply hiding behind anything and everything and spamming ranged attacks because they refuse to risk having more than 5 seconds pass without a room full of NPCs between themselves and their target to guard them while they spam ranged attacks through walls and said NPCs. All this said, the problem with the invasion system is not actually the invasions themselves. It is the audience onto whom the invasion system is placed. Many people in Elden Ring want to play and enjoy co-op adventures without invasions. Why would this be? Well, the one major point in this regard is preparation. People playing mostly solo and then briefly in co-op to assist with specific areas in Elden Ring will often have their builds focused around player versus environment, PvE content. This is optimized to deal with computer-controlled and balanced NPCs with a relatively small set of movement variations. However, invaders having prep time and knowing they are going to force their way into another player's world will optimize their builds around dealing with players and player attacks and items. This actually places the advantage firmly with the invader. There are numerous weapons, abilities, and items that perform exceptionally well in PvE that are simply useless in player versus player PvP combat. Take the somewhat infamous spell Comet Azure, a powerful, straight-line channeled beam of death, highly effective against NPCs with limited movement options or slow reactions, completely useless in PvP because a simple couple of steps horizontally will neutralize the ability in full because this death laser cannot be rotated or re-aimed once fired. This is admittedly probably the most extreme example of an ability being situationally brilliant or completely useless, but it highlights the point that not all strategies will work in every scenario, which is actually completely reasonable. Very few games allow or even encourage a one-size-fits-all solution to combat, especially roleplay games with hundreds of different weapons and skills at a player's disposal. However, this does highlight an issue with invasions. A well-tuned PvE build that someone wants to use in PvE with other people in PvE will be at an inherent disadvantage to a PvP-focused build, to the point where, even in the most extreme cases, even in a 3v1 scenario, the one could be at a technical advantage because of gear and ability choice alone. The existence of well-defined meta builds for PvP, historically consisting of Rivers of Blood and Moonveil weapon art spam, now replaced with the heaviest armor you can find combined with crouch-poking greatswords, or roll or crouch-poking dual-wield cross naginatas, lances, or greatspears combined with Bloodhound step spam. These meta builds allow for high PvP effectiveness with relatively low skill levels, hence their ubiquity. They are easy, and they are effective, especially against people whose builds are not specifically designed to counter such fast, aggressive repeat attacks, the likes of which you will simply never experience nor need to build around in PvE. The problem then lies not inherently with how invasions happen, but instead with whom is the focus of them. Put simply, people don't like being invaded as a general rule. The existence of the thousands of unique downloads of the invasion-free seamless co-op mod point to this. The mod in question allows players to play with friends through the entire game, defeating numerous bosses sequentially without disconnects after boss battles or the risk of PvP invasions. This indicates that invasions are not a wanted mechanic by a large number of people who want to play co-op through the game. The invasion fans' response to this, if you attempt to follow the discourse around the topic, is simply, get good, that's how the game works and how FromSoft games have always worked, deal with it. We could at this point simply observe that appeals to tradition are fallacious reasoning, but let's instead ignore that and actually address the bad argument. Okay, people dealt with it. They made a mod that removes you from their gaming experience. What now? Well, we see complaints from would-be invaders complaining that they can't play the game how they want to play the game because the people they told to deal with it or quit have dealt with it or quit. Indeed, you can find repeated and extensive complaints about how the seamless co-op mod has destroyed invasions and PvP in general in the game. This reveals to us a fundamental flaw with the get good or get gone mantra of invaders. Your fun as an invader is predicated on the existence of PvEers willing to co-op and thus be open to the process of invasion, even if not willingly undertaking that second part. This shows us with yet another data point that the problem is not necessarily the invasions themselves, but is with the audience onto whom the invasions are being forced. A popular counter to the PvP fans from the PvE enjoyers is go play the arena, which is a balanced, fair system, with each player getting equal prep time, and is placed in a minimally exploitable arena to fight in whatever manner they desire, duels, team battles, free-for-alls, etc. However, an important thing to note about the arena in Elden Ring is its relative depth. Wait times for arenas are huge, because simply put, most people who want to PvP don't want to fair fight PvP against people of equal number or standing. They want to force their way into the world of another player to hunt and kill them. Once again, I consider this to actually be a reasonable position. Invasions are mechanically very different from arena combat. This is because of the aforementioned NPCs and environmental differences. Effectively, PvPers have 2 or 3 game modes depending on how you wish to classify them. The relative chaos and fun of invasions, the more balanced and fair arenas which remove environmental consideration, or duelist message marks sent by the duelist finger or small red effigy, which allow for PvP anywhere in the world, adding in environmental variance. However, if player actions and complaints are to be believed, most PvPers do not want a fair duel against equally prepared players in an arena, or even against equally prepared players in the form of invasion duels. To this end, there seems to be a simple fix. It is not a problem of balancing, it is a problem of matchmaking. The solution to me seems simple. Rather than PvEers only having one PvE co-op mode, give them 2. Maintain the gold summon signs and golden phantoms. However, have these be invasion-free PvE experiences for people who want to play with friends. This would form PvE Mode 1. Add into the game an additional PvE feature, or even revive the concept of factions or covenants from previous games in the forms of a different coloured furled finger and summon sign. We'll say blue for now for reasons I hope to make clear. In this blue world of co-op, summoning a blue phantom to aid you would allow your world to be open to invasions as you PvE for people who are open to that experience. This would encourage people placing blue co-op summon signs to use more creative hybrid builds suitable for both PvE and PvP. These effectively separate forms of PvE co-op could even be balanced around their use and be mutually exclusive. Use a gold furl calling finger remedy to close your world off to blues and red invaders and to summon gold phantoms to help you on your exclusively PvE focused gameplay, but all NPCs gain a plus 50% damage and HP boost. This would allow for and even encourage highly specialized, optimized, dedicated PvE builds. Use your blue furl calling finger remedy to close your world off to golds and summon blue invasion-friendly PvE phantoms. Your world is now open to invasion by other players, but to compensate for your added PvP action, all NPCs gain a mere plus 25% damage and HP boost. You could expand this even further by placing specific invasion points to be filled either by player invaders or by automatically generated, pre-built by FromSoft, or cloned player builds, similar to the Great Arsenal Jar test invasions. Imagine, if you will, traveling through somewhere like Stormvale Castle, and there are, for example, 5 invasion points. Each one can only be activated once, and only when you're within a certain area. These would be activated only if the player has a blue summon phantom present. You are assured some manner of PvP in your blue world on the way to fight the boss, whether in the form of an actual player or in the form of an auto-generated or list-populated character or clone of an existing player who has already completed Stormvale Castle. There are numerous ways this could be instituted, of course, these are just examples. This could be combined with the use of the Taunter's Tongue item for those actively looking to summon invaders into their world, and could be used to effectively reactivate all invasion slots in a given area. A solution such as this would also eliminate the need for the white and blue cipher rings, since PvP would happen in a more reliable fashion and, more importantly, would only happen to players who actively seek that challenge, so calling for aid would be unnecessary, as would the need to have hunters join your world to assist with invasions. This could also add in the aforementioned covenants or factions, or simply add different rewards for completing an area as either a blue or gold phantom, some manner of token exchangeable with an NPC for unique "you did it, Goldie" or "you did it, Bluey" items, weapons, armor, consumables, craftables, gestures, etc. To me, a system such as this would provide a best of both worlds solution. PvE without invasions for people who want to PvE with friends or randomly friendly online players, PvP for people who want to fight fair in the form of arenas or dual summoning signs, PvE with invasions and friendlies for people who enjoy PvE with invasions and friendlies, and the Taunter's Tongue for people who just want to overworld PvP or PvP randomly in specific places with invaders.